you have heart failure and any of those seemingly unrelated symptoms sound familiar, it's time to talk with your cardiologist and get the full picture. They may add up to transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy. ATTR-CM is a rare and underdiagnosed disease. Recognize the signs and discuss them with your doctor soon. Learn more at connectwithyourheart.com. That's connectwithyourheart.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
If a natural disaster comes knocking, how prepared is your family? You can't just close the door on earthquakes, floods, or hurricanes and hope they go away. That's why it's important to make a plan now. Ready.gov/plan has the tools and tips you need to prepare your family for an emergency. So if disaster shows up at your doorstep, you'll be ready. Visit ready.gov/plan and make a plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
The Sundown Gardens Memorial Day sale is on right now. 20% off all container trees and shrubs, 186th Street and Spring Mill Road, sundown.gardens.com.
Through their service, veterans have our backs. Now we should have theirs. Learn more at gotyoursix.org.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment, and this is the Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. I'm thrilled to be with you. I've already had a fun day today. I joined my pals Hammer and Nigel and some other great WIBC folks out at a fundraiser for veterans put on by the Warrior Breed Motorcycle Club. And I've known a bunch of these guys forever. I've got a pal, Jeff Sampson, who's a member, and he's a great guy and a member of the 2A Project who shows up at the State House when we're fighting for your Second Amendment rights. And that's the kind of guys that you have in the Warrior Breed Motorcycle Club. They're almost all veterans. I asked that question today, and apparently they have one guy they let in who's not a veteran, who must be a pretty awesome dude. But they're all about raising money, primarily for veterans' causes. And that's what we did at Don Hines Ford today in Fishers. And given that cause, I mean, you know, I talk here about the Blazer 88 ride. It's my favorite group ride of the year. It's in August. You can find information, just Google Blazer 88 ride. It's also a fundraiser for veterans, just like the event was today. But this was a motorcycle show and car show, and they had a food truck out there. Again, it was in Don Hines' big parking lot there at Don Hines Ford in Fishers off 126th Street. And it was fun. It was really awesome. I almost put my old 25-year-old fat boy in the bike show because it's really old, but it's still kind of cute. Not unlike me, Carl. I mean, really ancient, but still kind of cute. But at any rate, the judging wasn't going on until a little bit later, and I had other stuff to do, and so I didn't enter my show in the bike show. But saw Representative Jim Lucas brought his awesome metric cruiser out with a really cool U.S. Marine custom paint job on it. Got to talk to a lot of guys, saw some beautiful motorcycles, saw some really neat cars, as I'm a car guy as well. So I got to spend most of the day on the Harley. And it's just been a really fun day. Parked it on the Circle, by the way. If you're out in front of the studios on Monument Circle, you see a really cute old fat boy sitting out there. Take good care of it for me. Don't let IMPD do anything awkward with my motorcycle. And I'll be out there checking it between 5 and 6 o'clock when we take a break. But anyway, it's a neat day, neat cause, and look for other events, fundraising events by a really good group of veterans. The Warrior Breed Motorcycle Club, and thanks to Hammer and Nigel, they were the obvious main attraction out there. But I saw they were having that event. I talked about it on Hammer and Nigel when I filled in for Jason Hammer on Tuesday, and I immediately got excited. You know, it was a nice day, a little bit brisk this morning, but that's all right. It's a little excuse to break off the leather, and just had a really fun day. So now I'm excited to come down here and do radio. We've got a lot to talk about. We want to take your calls throughout the show. I still say, with a possible exception of the Home and Garden Show, We're the only show here on the Gun Guy where we take calls throughout the entire duration of our show, and we're a lot more interesting than the Home and Garden Guy. I might throw it out as well. But you can give us a call throughout the show, 317-239-9393. That's 317-239-9393, and raise your Second Amendment-related questions, comments. We always invite input from our listeners, and we enjoy it as well. You can see the video of the show live, more or less live. It looks to be maybe a 5-second, 10-second delay, but it's on YouTube. Go to YouTube, search for WIBC, and you'll see the Gun Guy Show right there. You can click on that and watch a live video feed. And I believe producer Carl has that up on the WIBC Facebook page as well. So in the meantime, we want to get into what's going on out there in the world of Second Amendment advocacy, and certainly the efforts by those out there who would strip us of our constitutional rights altogether. And probably an event that happened this last week, happened on Wednesday, that's gotten a lot of the gun control proponents, a lot of the gun control advocates really excited, and I think unnecessarily so, which I'll get into here in some detail. But an event that happened is that, first of all, there was a Illinois assault weapon ban, quote unquote. And whenever I use that term, I'll have people send me comments on Facebook or on the YouTube chat feature. By the way, that's one thing about YouTube. If you're watching the show by video, there's a chat feature, and I usually keep an eye on that. In fact, last week live during the show, I was responding to some of those chat comments. But what happened, I started to say an assault weapon ban, and what I always hear, whether it's comments on Facebook or otherwise, people come on and say, what's an assault weapon? There's no such thing. There's no such term. There's no such definition. Well, I agree with you in the sense that, quote unquote, assault weapon is a made-up political term. If you listen to the Gun Guy Show for any length of time at all, you've heard me say that multiple times. Although it was completely inaccurate to say there's no definition, because in 1994, when we had a so-called assault weapon ban, that bill, that law, because it was in effect from 1994 to 2004, it had a definition of the firearms they were talking about. It was a really stupid definition, don't get me wrong, and it basically named a bunch of cosmetic features that if a semi-automatic rifle, and in that case, a pistol or shotgun as well, had certain cosmetic features, really scary features like a pistol grip or a barrel shroud. I always laugh at that one. What's a barrel shroud? It's a piece of metal that basically keeps you from burning yourself on a barrel. What the hell does that have to do with the lethality, the dangerousness, quote unquote, they always want to talk about when it comes to firearms? It has nothing to do with any of that. Or a flash suppressor. Egads, now it's an assault weapon. I mean, it's a dumb definition, don't get me wrong. But the people who want to take them away from us can certainly define them, because they have repeatedly. And there was a bill that passed the House last Congress, got sent over to the Senate, didn't get a vote in the Senate, but they sure as hell had a definition of assault weapon. So don't fool yourself, because a lot of us like to say, and it's absolutely true, to say it's a made-up political term that's nonsensical. But when it comes to defining those firearms that they want to ban, they're fully capable of defining the firearms. And what they've done in the last few so-called assault weapon bans, they've just named them by name. I'm talking make and model. And there's this big, long list of firearms saying, here's what we're talking about. In addition to naming these features of a semi-automatic firearm that make it an assault weapon, they'll say including specifically the following models. And they've gone through and tried to name every AK, every AR by make, model, and other information to try to define what they're talking about, so that the attack on their bills, on their proposed laws as being too vague and too undefined won't hold up to the extent they've named specific models that they're banning. They don't really know why they're banning them. They don't understand the technology, and none of it makes any sense, but they certainly are able to define them. Well, the state of Illinois and several cities and or villages, as they call them in Illinois, have banned so-called assault weapons. And what happened this last week is there is a litigation that was filed in district court, in federal court in Illinois. And the plaintiff in that case has the unfortunate name of Beavis, But Beavis versus State of Illinois and the city of Naperville, which has its own assault weapon ban, a gentleman named Beavis sued them and said this is unconstitutional and violates the Second Amendment. And with the decision we got last year from the U.S. Supreme Court, and I talk about this case all the time because it really is a game changer. It is absolutely fundamentally a game changer. But the decision in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin creates a new definition, a new test that the Supreme Court said shall be applied by all other courts in deciding whether an attack on the Second Amendment is constitutional or not, an attack on gun rights is constitutional or not. And it's a very, very well-stated lawsuit. It's a very strong lawsuit. And in my mind, there's a very, very high chance that if this particular lawsuit ends up in the Supreme Court and is decided on the merits, meaning the full decision of all the issues in the lawsuit, including the primary issue, which is this law constitutional or not, as violating the Second Amendment, that Mr. Beavis is going to win his lawsuit, and that statute will be declared unconstitutional. But what happened this week is that after first, at the lower courts, the district court went Beavis's way, and what he's asking for is a decision that the law is unconstitutional, but he also asked for an injunction, including a preliminary injunction, meaning that there be an order from the court telling the state of Illinois and any other cities within Illinois, you cannot enforce this law while the case is being litigated in full. They wanted an injunction so that the ban would be set aside at least temporarily while the full case was being decided, and then there could be a permanent injunction after the case is decided on the merits. They asked for an injunction. The lower court, the district court, granted that injunction. The Seventh Circuit, though, came back, and that's the appellate court that the district court then is part of. The Seventh Circuit. By the way, Seventh Circuit is something for us to be watching very carefully because the Indiana and the federal district courts in Indiana are in the Seventh Circuit as well. The Seventh Circuit said, well, no, we're going to decide the appeal, but we don't agree that there should be an injunction preventing enforcement of the law while the case is being litigated. So they declined to stop enforcement of the law until the case is decided on the merits. The plaintiffs then, Mr. Beavis, asked the U.S. Supreme Court to stand in and say, oh, no, we need an emergency injunction, asked the Supreme Court of the United States to issue this injunction to halt enforcement of the law while the case is being litigated. And on Wednesday, the Supreme Court of the United States, through Justice Amy Coney Barrett, declined to issue that injunction, that emergency injunction, telling the lower courts and telling the state of Illinois they cannot enforce this law while the case is being litigated. So what happened? The anti-gun people, the anti-Second Amendment people, were like singing and dancing in the streets. Aha! The Supreme Court finally issues an anti-gun ruling. They're supporting gun control. Clearly, the Supreme Court is going to rule for the state of Illinois and uphold this assault weapon ban, where we'll be able to ban these evil assault weapons forever because the Supreme Court denied this preliminary injunction. Is that really what this means? And is there really cause for celebration by the anti-2A people out there? I mean, the Gifford campaign, the Moms Demand Action, the Bloomberg organizations, we're, again, celebrating. Aha! Supreme Court finally rules the right way on the 2A. Should they be celebrating? That's what we'll get into when we come back. We're going to continue to take your calls, your questions and comments. Give us a call, 317-239-9393. That's 317-239-9393. We're taking a break. We'll be right back. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Kendall and Casey.
Donald Trump liable for sexually abusing and defaming her. They did clear his name of rape, however.
It, to me, does reinforce why he can't be the nominee. You're now running with this. You're already a candidate who has a serious issue with swing state suburban women, and now you're running with this.
Kendall and Casey, weekdays 9 till noon on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Premier Arms, located in Brownsburg. Premier Arms has the largest and most diverse selection of new and used firearms in central Indiana, with over 1,500 firearms in stock, from pre-Civil War firearms all the way through modern Class 3 firearms as well. They have the best prices on new and used firearms with a knowledgeable, professional, and courteous sales staff. They're also Indiana's largest Benchmade knife stocking dealer, and I'm a big fan of Benchmade knives. Stop by and see them at 3754 South Green Street in Brownsburg. Give them a call at 317-858-3030, or you can always check them out online at premierarms.com. That's my friends at Premier Arms, located in Brownsburg.
It's prime home selling season. Right now, home buyers are actively looking. With mortgage rates moving lower, now is the ideal time to get your home sold for maximum dollar. Make the smart choice. Hire the agent I recommend, Mark Dietl. Maybe you're a growing family or working from home, and that means you need more space. Just like Rob and Haley in Indianapolis. They had another child on the way, and they needed a bigger home. They hired Mark Dietl. He launched an amazing marketing plan, sold the home in a couple of weeks, plus Mark's team found them a new, bigger home, all in less than a month.
There's only one agent that we recommend and trust on the Hammer and Nigel show, and it's Mark Dietl. And the reason we trust him is because of the guarantee. Mark Dietl guarantees your home sold at an agreed-upon price and deadline, or he will buy it. Call him right now, 317-755-4232, or go online to markdietl.com. That's Mark, D-I-E-T-E-L, markdietl.com. Tell him Hammer and Nigel sent you.
I had changed the locks, didn't even know where she was living. And then one night she calls to say she's getting treatment. Can I drive? I almost hung up. But then I thought, that's my kid. I chose to put away the hurt and the fear and just see my girl.
Addiction is a disease. Standing by a loved one as they fight it will test your faith, patience, and sanity. But it's possible when you see the person, not just their disease. Learn more at cbeyondtheaddiction.org.
The Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council present the story of Tom and Levi.
Tom is the smartest man I know. He's been a professor at 2 major universities, he's been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, he told me that he was having problems in his classes. I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. And he was telling them that he was doing it as a favor to them, but I think in reality, he just wanted to get out of there. I was really starting to worry because I saw something was wrong.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me, and my love for him was just immense.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Mandy Moore. We can do great things when we stand together. With support from American Airlines, Stand Up to Cancer is closer than ever before to achieving its mission to make every cancer patient into a long-term survivor. Through this incredible collaboration, we are pushing cancer research to new heights. Doctors and scientists, team members, patients and their families all working and standing up to move progress forward. The fight against cancer never stops. Thankfully, new and promising treatments can help save lives now.
Flight attendants prepare for takeoff.
So get on board and join this mission. To learn more about how you can support this groundbreaking effort and get Advantage Miles, go to standuptocancer.org/American Airlines.
Pierce Jewelers wants you to know the diamond world has changed. You can choose mined or lab-grown diamonds. Unlike chain stores, Pierce Jewelers carries both. They can educate and help you save your hard-earned money.
Find the path to recovery that works for you. Learn more at cdc.gov/stopoverdose.
with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. Broadcasting here live from the beautiful downtown Radio 1 studio. I always want to say Emmis, but we're Radio 1 now. And a little different ownership. I've noticed a damn thing change other than the name on my very modest paycheck. but other than that, Carl, like that one. Other than that, man, it seems to be business as usual down here. But it's great to be downtown. Park my old red Fat Boy right out on the circle in front of the studio. Carl looked at me like I was crazy when I told him I parked down there. So if you're down there, listening on your motorcycle radio or on your phone, take good care of the good-looking red one down there. I'll be down to check on it between the 5 and 6 o'clock hours. But in the meantime, we're talking about this case where the Supreme Court denied an emergency injunction. And the question is, should the gun control advocates really be as excited as apparently they are? I mean, they were doing a victory lap. Aha, Supreme Court's going to rule in the gun control advocates' favor, and they're going to allow a banning of assault weapons, which should give Congress a lot of confidence in passing a similar ban. That's what you're hearing. Well, is that really what this means? No, absolutely not. 100% not. Anybody really understands the litigation process and understands how the Supreme Court works would understand this is really not a time for anyone to be dancing in the streets thinking they're going to finally ban the most common rifles in America. And here's why. The request for injunctions and the request for emergency injunctions, that's something that the Supreme Court very, very rarely does. The Supreme Court also doesn't really like to take cases and make rulings on cases without a fully developed record, meaning the case has been fully litigated in the lower courts to where they are dealing with decisions on the merits. They're dealing with a specific legal analysis that the Supreme Court can then rule on, not only in terms of the outcome, but in terms of the process, the analysis, the reasoning that the lower courts went through to reach the conclusion that they reached. And it's just step in and say, yes, we're going to issue an injunction and stop the enforcement of this law, is not something the Supreme Court is prone to do. They deny an incredibly large percentage of these. Where they might be interested is where there's some kind of immediate harm, where something really horrific is going to happen, unless they step in. Here, you're dealing with a law where people that have these guns can keep them in Illinois under their law. They can't transfer them. They can't take them out of their homes, except to take them to a gun range. The only exception to the fact that they can't transfer them is if it's part of an inheritance. So other than that, until you die, you can't transfer your gun to anyone else. And no one can sell them, including retail stores. So what are they going to do? They're going to, in their minds, slowly eradicate them because nobody can buy new ones. Nobody can sell the ones they already have. And you can only keep them within your family through a lawful inheritance to your heirs. So eventually the plan is to do away with them altogether through that sort of war of attrition. But in the meantime, people are hanging on to the guns they have under this ban. And I'm sure that was a big part of the Supreme Court saying, hold on, there's not this irreparable injury. That's a term you use a lot when you're arguing over injunctions in court. There's an irreparable injury that cannot be made, where a person cannot be made whole through money damages. There's irreparable harm that cannot be addressed later on, and there's a successful, or at least, there's a high degree of success on the merits. They have to find each of those things. For any court to issue an injunction, and to issue an emergency injunction makes it even more rare for the Supreme Court. So what the Supreme Court here really did is said, no, we're not going to take a look at this now. We're going to take a look at this once it's fully litigated in the lower courts. And once the lower courts resolve the issue, and they show us not only the conclusion they reached, but the analysis they went through to get there. Because the Supreme Court will issue decisions, for instance, where they say, well, the lower courts were right, but not for the reasons they thought. Not for the reasons they said. You applied the wrong test, you reached the right outcome, but here's the right test. Here, the test that the Supreme Court ultimately will apply when it does address a so-called assault weapon ban, and they will, make no mistake, Supreme Court is going to take this case eventually. You have a Justice in Justice Brett Kavanaugh who's already written an opinion for when he was on the D.C. Circuit. He's already written an opinion that says that assault weapon ban is unconstitutional, and there he was just using the analysis from back in D.C. versus Heller, issued in 2008, that simply said they're commonly used for lawful purposes. It's the most commonly owned, used rifle in America. Of course, it's commonly used for lawful purposes, which the Heller case said is protected by the Second Amendment. Here now, you have Heller compounded by the decision in the Bruin case that says there's no balancing, there's no test, there's no balancing as between some so-called compelling state interest in, like, keeping people safe. That's what they always say. And constitutional rights. And where there's a compelling state interest, and it's just kind of a little bit of an infringement. Obviously, that's not the exact legal analysis, but that's really the way it works out. Yeah, there's some infringement there, but it's not so bad. And there's a compelling state interest. That balancing comes out. Courts will uphold, under the prior test, will uphold that infringement of the Second Amendment. Supreme Court in the Bruin case just last year threw that out the window. That's gone. What do they say now? No. You look at the text, history, and tradition of a particular constitutional freedom. And here, the Second Amendment. What does it say? What does it mean? Well, the Heller case told us what it means. And then what's the history and the tradition of what laws have been upheld? In other words, to support an assault weapon ban, the state of Illinois is going to have to go in there and say, there's a long history and tradition of banning entire classes of firearms, including the most commonly owned rifles in America, dating back to before the founding of this country. How do you think they're going to fare on that? They're going to get their ass kicked. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. So when the case ultimately is ruled on the merits, you're going to see a much different outcome. In the meantime, if you hear gun control advocates celebrating, praising this point, finally a good decision from the Supreme Court. That's not what this means. That's not what this means. There will be a decision, but it's going to be, and I predicted right here on the Gun Guy Show, and hey, producer Carl posts these, you can record it, you can keep it for all posterity. When the Supreme Court rules on a so-called assault weapon ban, it'll be a hell of a lot different. And that's going to be a ruling that sticks, because it's going to be a decision on the merits. In the meantime, we're a little past the bottom of the hour. We're taking a break. We'll come back. We'll go to the phone lines. A lot of people have called in, got different questions, a lot of varied questions, but it's a good transition point. So we'll go to the phone lines and take calls when we come back. In the meantime, join the discussion, 317-239-9393. That's 317-239-9393. This is Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
The pothole. Formed in colder months, tiny fissures are born, and in no time at all, they grow into big, gigantic tire killers. That's why you need Matt Baird Traffic.
Watch out on Keystone Avenue.
He'll guide you around these hidden monsters.
Yeah, might as well call it a basement.
And on to safer ground.
You don't want to be in the far left lane.
Mornings and afternoons on 93 WIBC.
Indianapolis, do you have old, ugly, or even damaged concrete? Not sure what to do about it, but you know you need to do something? Well, you need to call Galaxy Concrete Coatings. This product is out of this world, and it's right here in Indianapolis. And just in time to give your concrete floors a transformation. Galaxy Concrete Coatings is 4 times stronger than epoxy. It's designed to not only work on your garage floor, but you can use it on driveways, walkways, around your pool or patio, commercial or residential. And it's UV resistant, which means it will not yellow. And even better, it can be ready to go in about 24 hours. Click on GalaxyConcreteCoatings.com or call 317-751-9070. Indy, you're ready for a transformation. Call Galaxy Concrete Coatings today, 317-751-9070. Galaxy Concrete Coatings. They are out of this world.
Dr. Trudy Fleer here with the 5G Home Recovery Podcast. Today, we're talking obstacles and obstruction. So many people are dealing with obstacles like walls, trees, even weather that can obstruct their T-Mobile home internet signal. Here's the thing. Nobody should choose between trees and internet. Nobody should be forced into an open floor plan just to get online. You can always choose internet that's reliable through walls. Just get Xfinity. Learn more at xfinity.com/TMOFacts.
Now through June 21st, new customers can get started with 200 megabit per second Xfinity internet on the Xfinity 10G network for less than what you would pay for T-Mobile home internet. It's all just $35 a month for 2 years with no annual contract and Wi-Fi equipment included. Go to xfinity.com/TMOFacts, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Requires paperless billing and autopay with stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Taxes and fees extra. After promo, regular internet rates apply. Actual speeds vary.
This hour on 93 WIBC, powered by Pierce Jewelers, Carmel's Lab Grown or Mined Diamond Store.
I'm Mary Corsetti, Fox News. President Biden at the G7 summit in Japan, expressing confidence that the White House will reach a deal with House Republicans on the debt ceiling.
President Biden said, "Shush up," to a reporter asking about the debt limit. He is expressing confidence there won't be a default, but he's been pretty hands-off with these talks, and he is not asking the vice president to lead things while he's overseas.
Fox's Peter Ducey, and there's been a decrease in migrants crossing the southern border since Title 42 ended last week.
Illegal border crossings remain way down, actually down between 60 and 70%. We're still seeing groups coming in, but the groups are a bit smaller. And there was a larger group in Eagle Pass stopped along the Rio Grande River. About 100 migrants were on the riverbank on the Mexican side, being told by Texas DPS and the National Guard to stay there. It was a 2-hour standoff.
Fox's Dan Springer. America is listening to Fox News.
This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell. Men, you fought hard for the role that you play in your children's lives. This Father's Day, Cordell & Cordell celebrates you the entire month of June. Join us every Friday for our live webinar series, Father's Fridays. There you'll receive much useful information from our panel of speakers. To register, go to CordellCordell.com/Father's Day.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's Indianapolis area attorneys. 101 West Ohio Street, Suite 1250, Indianapolis, Indiana 46204.
AE Ammo is Greenwood's ammunition superstore. The largest variety in training, hunting, and self-defense ammo with the best prices locally guaranteed. Factory new 9mm FMJ ammo starting at $12 per 50-round box. Factory new 50-round boxes, $380 from $14.99 and $45 ACP from $18.99. And with the AE Ammo Customer Rewards Program, start earning points today towards money back to use on future purchases. Shop in-store or online at aeammo.com.
My brother never checks on Dad, or my sister won't make time to take Mom to the doctor. Are these things you've heard yourself say? This is Tina McIntosh, president of Joy's House and co-host of the Caregiver Crossing radio program. I have a caregiving tip for you. Stay tuned.
At Cardon Senior Living Communities, you'll find our teams share a commitment to enhancing the lifestyle and well-being of the people we serve every day at every stage of life.
Expressing anger or resentment toward unsupportive siblings can cause unmendable rifts in relationships. Don't try to control everyone else. You can only control yourself. The success of your caregiving journey does not rest on others. So enjoy the time with your loved one. This is your special time with them. More tips like this are available anytime at caregivercrossingradio.org. With new weekly content created by Joy's House and distributed in partnership with Network Indiana, we're an on-air and online support group for Hoosier family caregivers. Hear conversations with experts, access the library of online education, and more at caregivercrossingradio.org.
The show about gun rights, gun safety, and responsible gun ownership. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. WIBC. And it's a great Saturday afternoon, a little brisk this morning. I'll tell you what, I left my house about 9:30 this morning on the Harley. I was glad I had the leather jacket on. And it was just a little bit cold, but hey, that's fun. It's fun to break out the leather. I was kind of laughing. In fact, I took a picture. I realized I got to the event again. Totally fun event put on by the Warrior Breed Motorcycle Club at Don Hines Ford today. Hammer and Nigel were the main attractions, and it was fun for me to be there and support what they were trying to do to raise money for veterans. But at one point, I took a picture of my old leather jacket, a motorcycle jacket, hanging on the mirror of my bike, and so yeah, it's kind of fun when you got a 30-year-old jacket hanging on a 25-year-old motorcycle. It gave me a smile because it's all stuff I've had for a long time. But in the meantime, we've had a lot of people call in. Oh, a whole bunch of people. Carl, you've been busy over there, brother. Let's go to the phone lines. We got a bunch of people who have called in. Let's start getting through these calls. Our pal Buzz is called. Buzz, how you doing, man?
Real good. How you doing, Guy, and the whole 2A Project Nation?
Yeah, there you go. Thank you for that.
Yes. Okay. I think we need to get AG Rakita to put in for a cease and resist against the FCC to stop the coding on the credit cards in the banks. The banks are now trying to weasel their way out of being associated with that. So,
yeah, and just for and it's not FCC, Buzz, but I can tell you exactly what's going on, and you're right to be concerned about this issue. But let me tell folks what exactly we're talking about here. Last year, at the urging of a number of gun control proponents, we're talking about pro-gun control or anti-Second Amendment members of Congress, and we're talking about groups like Moms Demand and the Gifford Center and the Brady Campaign and all the usual suspects. They actually went to an organization called the International Organization for Standardization. And this is, as the name suggests, it's international, and they do things like establish coding processes for using credit cards. For instance, now, if you use your credit card at a grocery store, there's a code that says you're spending money at a grocery store. And there are certain credit cards, for instance, and my wife's accounts, where she banks, and I guess that means where I bank, now that I think about it, but she can get, as part of her statement, an actual breakdown. You spent this much money at retail clothing stores, you spent this much money at grocery stores, you spent this much money elsewhere. And it helps people manage their money is the idea. Well, these gun control folks went to this organization that creates these codes and said, we need a code anytime anybody uses a credit or a debit card at a gun store, at a licensed retailer. In other words, a federal firearms licensee, as we call them. And so we need a code so we can track suspicious purchases and perhaps identify a mass shooter. Here's how ridiculous that is. What this does is it says, okay, let's say I go in and I buy a $2,000 gun safe at Indy Arms or at my pals out at Premier Firearms in Brownsburg. I spend $2,000 and I buy a gun safe. The only thing this coding process does is it says Guy Relford spent $2,000 at Premier Arms. That's all it tells them. It could be $2,000 in T-shirts that say Premier Arms on them. It could be $2,000 in ammo because I'm taking a bunch of firearms classes or I'm teaching a bunch of firearms classes. Or it could be 2 AR-15s, really nice AR-15s, for that amount of money. It doesn't tell anybody what you bought. So here's what they're doing through this. They're trying to set up a system where the credit card companies, and we already know there are banks and credit card companies out there that despise your Second Amendment rights. Chase Bank is famous for here recently for just shutting down the accounts of people involved in the firearm industry, just saying we don't want to do business with you anymore. They're trying to set up a system where the credit card processors can simply decline the purchase. No, we don't want a credit card with our name on it being used at a gun store. They're trying to create a system, and this is all part of, and a follow-on from, is probably a better way to say it, of what they called Operation Choke Point, which came out during the Obama administration. They said we're going to attack the gun industry through financial institutions. We're going to say insurance companies shouldn't insure gun manufacturers. We're going to say banks shouldn't do business with people who are involved in the firearms industry. I've had credit card processors refuse to process credit card payments to me as a firearms instructor who teaches firearm safety, who sells a book on firearm safety. Gun Safety and Cleaning for Dummies, by the way, you can find it at tactical-firearms.com. But they won't do business with me because I have something to do with the firearms industry. So this coding is all about choking off the firearm industry through financial institutions. That's what it's about. But Buzz, what you're talking about is the fact that several attorneys general have actually written a letter, this is dated September of last year, to several major banks, American Express, MasterCard, and Visa. They wrote them a letter that said, we understand that you're perhaps moving forward with using this new coding system created by the International Organization for Standardization at the behest of gun control proponents. We urge you not to do it. And if you do, we will look to potentially take action against you. And yes, this letter, in fact, I just pulled it up while I'm talking, September 20th, 2022, was signed by, including several other attorneys general, Todd Rokita, Indiana Attorney General. So that's what's going on. Now, will somebody get sued over this? Will there be litigation? That's all the next steps. But in the meantime, at least the shot has been made across the bow to say this is something that attorneys general are taking a look at, and we will not allow financial institutions to jeopardize the constitutional rights of citizens in these various states. I think it was 21 attorneys general who signed this thing. But that's what's going on, and there's going to be much more to follow on that as this thing goes forward. In the meantime, we're a little past the 3/4 hour. We're taking a break. We'll come back. We'll go back to the phone lines. When we come back, if you're on hold, please be patient. We're going to get to you. We're going to get to all our callers. We got a whole hour plus of the show. So I really appreciate your patience. We will get to you here eventually. Join the discussion, 317-239-9393. This is Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Hammer and Nigel.
Greased up naked Florida man, 2 counts of burglary, 3 counts of battery on a law enforcement officer, so he fought with police. But the fact there was battery on an officer and resisting arrest means that one of those brave police officers in Florida had to fight this naked lunatic. And he's got things swinging and flying, and he's greased up too.
Hammer and Nigel, weekdays 3 till 7 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Essentials of Indiana Gun Law. Our next 4.5 hours of the most important information you need as an Indiana gun owner. This is the law of when you can use force, including deadly force, how you can avoid very serious crimes. These are felonies: pointing a firearm, intimidation with a deadly weapon, criminal recklessness with a firearm. Those are things I defend all the time, and invariably they involve people who simply did not understand the law. That's what this course is designed to fix. It's Essentials of Indiana Gun Law. Our next one, I'm excited, it's going to be at a Parabellum Firearms and Indoor Range, Saturday, June 17th. So it's coming right up. It's about 3/4 sold out, but we still have plenty of seats available. You can sign up right online at tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses, and I got a deal for you. If you sign up over the next 2 hours, so for the show duration and another hour afterward, you sign up for Essentials of Indiana Gun Law, we will include 2 tickets to the next Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show coming up a week from yesterday is when it's going to start. It's next weekend. You sign up over the next 2 hours, 2 free tickets to get into the gun show. These are single-day tickets. I will send those right out to you. You'll get them this week if you sign up for Essentials of Indiana Gun Law on June 17th. That's tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
If you can plan barbecues and weddings, you can plan to protect yourself from a natural disaster. Sign up for local alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Hubler has it.
Hubler has all the top brands: Chevy, Buick, GMC, Ford, Acura, Honda, Mazda, Nissan, and more. And every new vehicle includes a 10-year, 200,000-mile warranty. Looking to sell your vehicle? We'll pay you top dollar, even if you don't buy ours. Take it from Brooke Hubler.
You can get a car anywhere, but you can only get a warranty like this at Hubler. 10 years, 200,000 miles.
Visit drivehubler.com.
Hubler has it all.
Warranty available on new vehicles except certain models, non-transferable or available on leases. Copy of the warranty is available for review at the dealership.
Are your investments going nowhere? Here's a tip that always pays big dividends. Invest in yourself, your talent, your smarts, your skills. Maybe it's time to make that investment and start a career in IT or upskill to boost your current career. At My Computer Career, you can bank on us. We'll help you get the right skills and the right certifications to start or advance your IT career. IT keeps growing, so go with the growth at My Computer Career. The right training, the right timing, the right career. Invest in you at mycomputercareer.edu. Start now.
Whether you're an experienced firearms owner or are just thinking about getting a new firearm, Atkinson Firearms in Greenwood has everything you need. With brands like Glock, Smith & Wesson, Canik, Colt, Henry, SIG, and much more. If Atkinson Firearms doesn't have it, they can get it. Plus accessories, from holsters to ammo and everything between. Atkinson Firearms is firefighter owned and veteran staff with a new larger location. Follow Atkinson Firearms on Facebook. Atkinson Firearms, off County Line Road next to the Greenwood Airport.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. Wounded Warrior Project was created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war, whether those scars are physical or mental. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
It's JMV, and the Sundown Gardens Memorial Day sale is on now. 20% off all container trees and shrubs, 186th and Springmill Road, sundown.gardens.com.
Emmer and Nigel here, inviting you to join us as we kick off the weekend every Friday around 5:45 with Beer Sample Friday, brought to you by our friends at Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus.
I always had to be so good, no one could ignore me. Carve my path with data and drive. But some people only see who I am on paper. The paper ceiling. The limitations from degree screens to stereotypes that are holding back over 70 million stars. Workers skilled through alternative routes rather than a bachelor's degree. It's time for skills to speak for themselves. Find resources for breaking through barriers at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
Kids across America are going to school hungry every day. No Kid Hungry is providing healthy meals and hope to hungry kids so they can build better futures. Learn more at helpnokidhungry.org.
Tales from the Track is back, presented by Relay Indiana. The tickets on sale now, WIBC.com. It's Monday, May 22nd, the week before the race. Ed Carpenter will be our guest. Ed's going to be doing a meet and greet with everyone. Get your tickets now. It's going to sell out, WIBC.com.
Your rights, your responsibilities, your guns. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'll tell you, we've got a very short segment, a little more than 2 minutes. But I've got a whole bunch of people holding. And I'll tell you what, Joe's been holding the longest at this point. Joe, welcome to The Gun Guy Show, man. What you got for us?
Hi, Guy. I've been listening for your show. Listening
that.
to your show for a long time. So my question is, my wife is not a U.S. citizen. She actually just got her green card, but she's technically a Chinese national. But she has shown a lot of interest in guns. And my question was if she could buy one.
Yes.
If she's allowed to.
Yeah, she's a permanent resident, meaning she has her green card. And so if she's a permanent resident, she can lawfully buy a gun. If you're not a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident, then generally speaking, you can't purchase a firearm or possess a firearm, but there are even exceptions to that. The most common with a lot of people here are on non-immigrant student visas, and they cannot purchase a firearm. But one of the exceptions to that law, Joe, interesting enough, is that if the law says if they're engaged in a lawful hunting activity, they can possess a gun. Well, that's been interpreted to say here in Indiana that if they go get a hunting license, they can then, even though otherwise, as a non-U.S. citizen and non-permanent resident, that otherwise they couldn't purchase or possess a firearm with a hunting license, they can. And it's interesting. You go down to the gun stores, Again, I'll be, at a place like Pinnacle Firearms, my buddies in Carmel, and somebody comes in there and they say, hey, I'm here on a visa, but I have my hunting license. Yes, they can buy a gun. But more importantly, in answer to your question, a permanent resident, somebody with a green card, can possess and buy a gun. Now, the key is going to be if the people at the gun store fully understand what the law is, but that's the answer. So I'll tell you what, we're coming up on the top of the hour, so we're taking a break. We got a bunch more people on hold, people with some really good questions based on what they've told producer Carl. So I'm going to want to get to all those calls, and then we'll get to some other topics of interest for gun owners here in Indiana and beyond. Right now, we're taking a break. We'll be right back for hour number 2. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Have you saved enough? Do you have a plan for Social Security and taxes in retirement? Hey, Casey Weed of Howard Bailey Financial, where our mission is to help you gain clarity and purpose and elevate meaning in your life through personal and practical financial strategies. That's why we want to give you our Retire with Purpose Toolkit at no cost. In it, you'll find valuable information on minimizing taxes, maximizing Social Security, and building a retirement income you can't outlive. Plus, you'll receive a copy of my book, Job Optional. To get your complimentary toolkit, call or text the keyword INFO 42 to 866-482-9559. That's INFO 42 to 866-482-9559.
Howard Bailey Financial is the official wealth management partner of Notre Dame Athletics. Notre Dame Athletics was compensated for this endorsement and is not a current client of Howard Bailey. For more information, please visit howardbailey.com/ND disclosure. Investment advisory services may be offered through Howard Bailey Securities LLC, a registered investment advisor. Working with Howard Bailey Securities LLC cannot guarantee investment success or that specific financial goals will be achieved.
At Diamonds Direct, we know your first impression of us is probably bridal jewelry, engagement rings, wedding bands, and yes, you're right, there's a reason we're the nation's premier bridal jewelry destination. But you're missing out if you don't also think about Diamonds Direct for jewelry gifts for other special moments, like birthdays, graduations, sweet 16s, anniversaries. Our collection of fashion jewelry is second to none. Cases filled with rings, bands, pendants, bracelets, colored gemstones, beautiful jewelry starting at around $300. Jewelry boxes across America are being filled with our diamond classics, like stud and hoop earrings and stunning tennis bracelets. Everyday jewelry that you can wear with anything. And know this, the same quality and value you appreciate in our bridal collections, you'll find as well in our fashion jewelry. No compromises. So as you celebrate all the amazing moments of your life, remember Diamonds Direct. Let us help you celebrate with a gift of lasting value. Diamonds Direct, your love, our passion. Details, store hours, and more at diamondsdirect.com.
Running a business comes with pressure. Remote workforces, HR compliance, retaining top talent. You start to feel boxed in. Fortunately, there's Insperity. They put 30 plus years of HR service and technology to work, offering my employees competitive benefit options while lightening my HR load. Instead of obstacles, I'm surrounded by people empowered to be their best. With Insperity, nothing seems impossible. Insperity, HR that makes a difference.
This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell. Men, you fought hard for the role that you play in your children's lives. This Father's Day, Cordell & Cordell celebrates you the entire month of June. Join us every Friday for our live webinar series, Father's Fridays. There you'll receive much useful information from our panel of speakers. To register, go to CordellCordell.com/Father's Day.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's Indianapolis area attorneys. 101 West Ohio Street, Suite 1250, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46204.
Broadcasting from the Peterman Brothers Heating, Plumbing, and Electrical Studios, this is Indy's Mobile News, 93 WIBC. WIBC HD1 Indianapolis. The news starts now.
China. I'm Mary Corsetti, Fox News. At the G7 summit, as world leaders issue a joint statement.
It's very specific about saying that it's not meant to thwart China's development or progress, but it does get very critical of China's actions in specifically the South China Sea, as well as the actions they're taking with Taiwan, saying that changes to the status quo would not be tolerated. It also calls on China to end the programs meant to undermine security and safety in other countries, as well as end human rights abuses. Now, critics say the president has been dragged into criticizing China, taking a long time to push back. China's been helping Russia as Russia continues to try and take Ukrainian land.
Fox's Edward Lawrence. Meanwhile, the FBI has reportedly been conducting searches on American citizens by using its warrantless search power. That's according to a recently unsealed court filing.
A senior FBI official shared this, quote, as Director Wray has made clear, the errors described in the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court's opinion are completely unacceptable. As a result of the audits that revealed these instances of non-compliance, the FBI changed its querying procedures to make sure these errors do not happen again. We are committed to continuing this work and providing greater transparency into the process to earn the trust of the American people. Now, Section 702, it's set to expire at the end of this year. It does so every 6 years.
Fox's Alexandria Hoff, and video surfacing of a group of strangers beating and robbing a woman in Brooklyn earlier this week.
The woman is surrounded by 6 suspects. They hit her to the ground after exchanging some words, and then they punch and stomp on her repeatedly. She falls into the street. This continues for way too long before she crawls back up onto the sidewalk, eventually trying to use that bike as protection. And then the group eventually walks away, but not before police say they took her cell phone, wallet, $25 cash, and bank cards.
Fox's Nate Foy. America is listening to Fox News.
Stay on top of the latest forecast with America's Weather Team in the palm of your hands.
Here's the latest from America's Weather Center.
It's Fox weather updates throughout your busy day, every day.
5 inches of rain by tomorrow.
Temperatures being 30 degrees above average.
Put the power of over 100 meteorologists and the worldwide resources of Fox in your hands with the Fox Weather Podcast. Precise, personal, powerful. Subscribe and listen now at foxnewspodcasts.com. Connect to Fox News Audio on the Fox News app. Listen to hear your favorite hosts like Brian Kilmeade, Jimmy Fallon, and Guy Benson standing up for what's right, live and via podcast. Just click listen, then swipe right and hear the latest news updates on your time. And scroll down to hear the latest podcasts from Fox News. And it's even easier to listen in the car with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Get programming alerts and notifications. Fox News Audio is on the Fox News app. The voices America trusts. Download it now.
As our loved ones age, ensuring their safety at home becomes a top priority. This is Tina McIntosh,
on the go.
A total loss. 69 degrees here on Monument Circle. I'm Sasha Nixon. Here's what's trending at 6:03. No one was hurt in a Columbus house fire Saturday, even though the home is believed to be a total loss. Firefighters were called to a home on Central Avenue shortly after 4 a.m., where they learned that a fire had started in the breezeway between the home and the garage. Owner Diana McGrady said her niece discovered the fire and the two were able to escape. At this time, investigators think it was started by a heating lamp or an extension cord that were being used to keep some baby chickens warm. The home sustained about $200,000 in damages. A girl who went from having no running water on an Alaskan homestead to earning 26 Music Award nominations will be singing the national anthem at the Indy 500. John Herrick reports.
And that singer is Jewel, and that's the song Who Will Save Your Soul from her album Pieces of You, which went on to become one of the best-selling albums of all time. She last performed the national anthem at the Indy 500 in 2010. John Herrick, 93 WIBC Mobile News.
A summer concert series will start at the Greenwood Park Mall in just a few weeks. The free community events will happen Thursdays from June 1st to July 20th. The concerts will happen at the mall's outdoor fountain, and performances will be family-friendly. It's 6:04. Here's your forecast from the American Standard Cooling Weather Center.
For tonight, mostly clear, cooler, low temperature of 47 degrees. Plenty of sunshine in store for Sunday as our high temperature reaches 79 degrees. I'm Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Ryan Morse for 93 WIBC.
It's still 69 degrees here on Monument Circle, so if you have some time, you might want to get out and stretch your legs in the sunshine. I'm Sasha Nixon, on the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
As our loved ones age, ensuring their safety at home becomes a top priority. This is Tina McIntosh, president of Joy's House and co-host of the Caregiver Crossing radio program. I'll be right back with some practical things you can do to reduce the possibility of a fall or injury.
At Cardon Senior Living Communities, you'll find our teams share a commitment to enhancing the lifestyle and well-being of the people we serve every day at every stage of life.
Removing tripping hazards such as rugs and floor clutter is one way to prevent or minimize falls around the home. Another is to position grab bars in the restroom and other common areas where your loved one may need some extra support. Contact your local area agency on aging to inquire about low-cost or free installation services. More tips like this are available anytime at caregivercrossingradio.org. With new weekly content created by Joyce House and distributed in partnership with Network Indiana, we're an on-air and online support group for Hoosier family caregivers. Hear conversations with experts, access the library of online education, and more at caregivercrossingradio.org.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment, and this is the Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back to the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. We're excited you're with us. And I'll tell you what, we've already had some awesome callers and got several people on hold. I'm going to go right back to the phone lines, man. You know what? My show started after I just was a fill-in right off the street on a weekend show, and one of the other hosts here had me in for what they called Ask the Gun Lawyer. He just thought that'd be interesting after the Indy Star ran an article on just me and the nature of my practice being limited to gun-related issues, my law practice. And that went over really well. We had a bunch of callers, and they invited me back a month or so later, and we did it again, and then they offered me my own show. That was 8 years ago, Carl. You believe that? I still feel like a rookie around here, but I've been doing this a little while now. So we're going to go right back to the phone lines. Bruce has called in, been on hold for a long damn time. Bruce, man, thanks for your patience. What's your question?
Hey, Guy. Hope you're well.
I am, Brian. Thank you.
I've got a question for you relative to the DNR. You know, the weather's getting nicer, the parks, you know, you go to the parks. I just wonder what the concealed carry laws are in the parks in Indiana. I did look up something in Brown County, and I think it said, and maybe I'm wrong, but like in a building, like if you go to the lodge down there or something like that, if they've got federal employees, you're not allowed to have a firearm in there. I'm not sure about that, but I'm just worried about gotcha laws.
Yeah, well, and you're wise because there are enough gotcha laws out there, Bruce, we should be concerned about them. But no, you can have a firearm, a handgun in a state park in Indiana. But get this, the DNR regulation says you can have a gun in a state park with a Indiana handgun license. And when we were fighting for constitutional carry last year, there was some discussion with the DNR to say, hey, if we pass constitutional carry, you ought to amend the DNR regulation to say the same thing, meaning unless you're a prohibited possessor, you can carry a handgun if you're at least 18 in a state park. We didn't get that done. And since that's a DNR reg, not a state law, we couldn't change it as part of the constitutional carry statute that's at the state level in terms of an actual law. So that still says with an Indiana license to carry handgun, you could have a gun in a state park. Now, your point about federal facilities, that's absolutely true. A building or part thereof that's owned or managed by the federal government where federal employees are regularly present in the performance of their job responsibilities. That's off the top of my head, but I think that's 100% accurate. A federal facility that meets that definition, you cannot have a gun in there. I don't know of any federal facilities in state parks except, and I covered this in my gun law class, any reservoirs or lakes that are owned by the Army Corps of Engineers are considered federal, and you can't have a gun on the lake or the reservoir that are owned by the Army Corps. And I give a list of what all those, there's a bunch of them. Like here close to us, there's Monroe down by Bloomington. There's Raccoon out west, which actually is called Cecil M. Hardin is the official name of it. And several others, a bunch of them. Brookville, those are owned by the Army Corps of Engineers. So actually on the lake, which is owned by the Army Corps of Engineers, that's federal, you can't have a gun there. But to answer your question, generally speaking, with a license to carry, you can have a gun in a state park, a handgun. Interestingly enough, I always talk about constitutional carry. I go, look, there are a couple of reasons where even though we have constitutional carry, you still should get a license if you want to carry a handgun. One is the state park issue, because you still need a license to lawfully carry in a state park. Another one is the Federal Gun-Free School Zones Act. Now, I'm not talking about the state law. That's completely different. We have to comply with both. And state law does not have this exception. But if you can't have a gun in a school zone as defined by federal law, and that includes within 1,000 feet of school property. That's the federal law. Indiana law just deals with the state property, or the school property itself, I should say. Federal law says anywhere within 1,000 feet of a school. But there's a big exception to the federal law, and this exception does not exist under state law, so don't go carrying your handgun into your kid's school next week, because the exception under federal law is if you have a license to carry. If you're licensed to possess a firearm by the state in which the school is located, then you're not subject to the Federal Gun-Free School Zones Act. So if you're within 1,000 feet of a school, and there's several other exceptions. You're on private property, not a part of the school. There are several others. But the federal law says if you have a handgun, like if you're licensed by the state. So that's why in the constitutional carry law, we made it very clear that if you have a license, even though a license is no longer required in Indiana, you are still licensed by the state to possess that firearm, to carry that firearm. That's because of the Federal Gun-Free School Zones Act. We wanted to cover that. If you're relying on constitutional carry and you don't have a license, then you got to be worried about the Federal Gun-Free School Zones Act, which applies to not only school property, but anywhere within 1,000 feet of a school, with some exceptions. But yeah, the state park, you're good to go with a license. Let's go back to the phone lines. And LD, am I getting that right? LD, I'm liking the name. Welcome to the Gun Guy Show.
Thank you, Guy, for taking my call. Just recently, my grandson graduated from school, and he's moving to New Hampshire. Uh-huh. And between here and New Hampshire, there's a couple states that I know of. It's pretty tough on gun laws. Now, he has a Browning over and under trap and skeet gun. It's already in a case broken down. He has a 1100, Remington 1100. It's had butt plate modified for trap shooting. And he has a Springfield 9mm handgun. It's a 10-round capacity. So I'm wondering what you can tell me on this. What to do.
The thing to check out there is what's called the Firearm Owners Protection Act of 1986. And thanks for your call, by the way, and thanks for your patience in holding. And I'm going to get to everybody else on hold, I'm telling you right now. But the thing to check out is the Federal Firearm Owners Protection Act. And if you want to just Google this, it's at 18 U.S.C. 926A. And it talks about interstate transportation of firearms. And this is, a lot of times you'll hear people call this the safe transport or the safe harbor provision of FOPA, the Federal Firearm Owners Protection Act. And what this says, and I just pulled it up here since getting your question, it says, notwithstanding any other provision of any law or any rule or regulation of a state or any political subdivision thereof, so that means counties, cities, towns, any person who is not otherwise prohibited by this chapter, so that means you're not prohibited by federal law from possessing a gun, not otherwise prohibited by this chapter from transporting, shipping, or receiving a firearm, shall be entitled to transport a firearm for any lawful purpose from any place where he may lawfully possess and carry such firearm to any place where he may lawfully possess and carry such firearm. If during such transportation the firearm is unloaded and neither the firearm nor any ammunition being transported is readily accessible or directly accessible from the passenger compartment of the transporting vehicle, provided that in the case of a vehicle without a compartment separate from the driver's compartment, the firearm or ammunition shall be contained in a locked container other than the glove compartment or console. So What's that? And by the way, New Hampshire does recognize the Indiana license to carry. So for the handgun, the Springfield, if he has a license here, then he can possess his handgun here, and he can possess it where he's going. That's a requirement of the FOPA safe transport rule. He just needs to make sure for all the firearms, they're unloaded. If he's got a trunk, you want them unloaded and in the trunk. If he doesn't have a trunk, if he's got a van or a pickup truck or an SUV that doesn't have a separate compartment like a trunk, then they need to be in locked, both firearm and ammunition. It needs to be in a locked container, and I would put it as far away from him in the van, truck, whatever it might be, as he can get it. Locked container, not just a container, locked container, other than the glove compartment or console. So now, that's a federal law. Do I expect every state cop, every local county sheriff, every law enforcement officer from here to New Hampshire to understand this federal law? No. When I've done this and when I've relied on it, I actually print a copy of it. Again, go to 18 U.S.C. 926A, print a copy of it. And I, you know what I've done? It may sound goofy to you. I've printed it and I've put it right in the gun case with my gun. So if a cop finds my gun, wherever it might, and I'm complying with 100%, lock container, whatever it takes, if they find my gun, they're going to find a copy of that damn statute. They may not believe it, they may not understand it, but by God, they're going to have it right there in front of them where I can go, this is legal under federal law. And this is a place where federal law does preempt state law. If some Illinois cop, I know he's going the other direction, but New York says, oh no, well, New York law is New York law. Nope, federal law says this is legal. You can't make it illegal. Now, could he still go to jail? Could he still get hassled? Could it end up in years of litigation? Yeah, sure, that all can happen. So I'm not cavalier about this. But the law says, and federal law says, you can safely and legally do this if you comply with those requirements of the Federal Firearm Owners Protection Act. Thanks for your call, man. Appreciate your patience. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. We got several other people on hold. We'll go right back to the phone lines. Man, awesome callers tonight. Really good questions and a lot of good information, I think, coming out from the great questions that people are asking. So we'll go back to the phone lines and then transition to some other subjects. Join the discussion, man. Great callers. 317-239-9393. That's 317-239-9393. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Tony Katz.
But you're not going to share it with anybody in the building, are you? You're not going to share it with your people in the newsroom?
Hell no.
You're not going to share it with producer Jonathan?
Can't do it, won't do it.
Sorry, I'm going to get you one. I'm going to get you the local pickup, name a person picking up, traffic beast Matt Bear. I'm not putting Carlos Danger either.
Jack Thruster.
No, look, it's still a morning show. Do you mind? That stuff might play with Casey Daniels, but you can't be doing that here.
Tony Katz, mornings 6 to 9 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. Our most popular class, as you often hear me say on the Gun Guy Show, is our Essentials of Indiana Gun Law class. This is 4.5 hours of the most important legal information you need as an Indiana gun owner. And our next one is coming up on Saturday, June 17th. And I'm excited. This is going to be in Avon. So Essentials of Indiana Gun Law comes to Avon. Parabellum Firearms and Indoor Range there on Kingston Street in Avon's where we're going to have this course. They got a nice, big, comfortable conference room. I'm excited to teach the course there. 4.5 hours is from 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. It's $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. You can sign up right online at tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses. And from now until an hour after the show, you sign up for the course, and you're going to get 2 free tickets to the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show coming to the State Fairgrounds next weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So you get 2 free tickets. I believe they're one-day tickets last time I looked. But those are coming free when you sign up for that course at tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
It's prime home selling season. Right now, home buyers are actively looking. With mortgage rates moving lower, now is the ideal time to get your home sold for maximum dollar. Make the smart choice. Hire the agent I recommend, Mark Dietl. Perhaps you're worried about settling for less money with a low-ball instant offer. The great thing about Mark Dietl, he guarantees your home sold at an agreed-upon price and deadline, or he's going to buy it. Listen to what Matt out there in Greenfield had to say about working with Mark Dietl. I have investment properties, so I know who is good in the real estate world. I heard Mark Dietel was great, and it's true. I hired Mark for my most recent home sale, and he delivered a cash offer with no inspection and no appraisal in days. Mark is the real deal. Call the agent I trust and recommend for the details. Mark Dietel guarantees your home will be sold or he's going to buy it. Call Mark Dietel at 317-755-4232 or go online to markdietel.com. That's markdietel.com.
Premier Deck Coating, the ultimate deck protection. Who are they? Well, they're a sister company of Rhino Shield, and Premier Deck Coating is the product you need if you're tired of applying the same old stain and paint every couple of years to your deck. It's Terry, Stacy, and David and I have a deck that's probably 25 years old. The countless hours and the money that we spend on maintaining that deck never ends. And then we heard about Premier Deck Coating, family-owned, based right here in Indy, and they are going to completely transform our deck with their special formulated product, which repels moisture, scratch-resistant in virtually any color that we want, and backed by a 10-year guarantee. No more spending time staining or painting every year. Premier Deck Coating will keep our deck looking great for years to come. Premier Deck Coating can also do fences and pergolas, too. For a free quote, call 317-696-4071 or visit premierdeckcoating.com.
Gilbert worked in retail and restaurant management for 14 years. It was time for a change.
I recognized where I was at was vulnerable to the whims of the economy.
Then he heard about My Computer Career. Gilbert went for it.
In as little as 7 months, I got all of my certifications at a fraction of a cost for college.
He became an IT pro in just months with zero experience at mycomputercareer.edu.
I can work from anywhere. I have more time for my family as well.
It's not rocket science. It's mycomputercareer.edu.
This is one student's experience. Individual results vary.
Whether you're an experienced firearms owner or are just thinking about getting a new firearm, Atkinson Firearms in Greenwood has everything you need. With brands like Glock, Smith & Wesson, Canik, Colt, Henry, SIG, and much more. If Atkinson Firearms doesn't have it, they can get it. Plus accessories, from holsters to ammo and everything between. Atkinson Firearms is firefighter owned and veteran staff with a new larger location. Follow Atkinson Firearms on Facebook. Atkinson Firearms, off County Line Road next to the Greenwood Airport.
My simple solution to the problem was remove people from the scene and help them feel safer.
In response to attacks against Asian Americans, Maddie Park raised over $250,000 to donate cab rides to the Asian community.
There is so much more work to be done. We really need to come together and tackle this issue as a community.
Support the Asian community. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
Life is a collection of moments that last forever, so make them matter and make them count with that symbol of everlasting love. A diamond from Pierce Jewelers. Shop local, shop smart, shop Pierce Jewelers.
No Kid Hungry is providing healthy meals and hope to hungry kids so they can build better futures. Learn more at helpnokidhungry.org.
Now, you've got a gun guy. Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. Tell you what, we've had two callers, Steve and Dave, been on hold for a damn long time. I'll get to both of them, but Steve's been on the longest, as between those two. Steve, welcome to the Gun Guy Show.
Hey, how you doing, Mr. Relford?
Good, man. You doing all right? It's just Guy, man.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm old school.
No, I like it.
I got a couple questions. I talked to you last summer. I'm almost 8 years removed from a felony for OWI.
Okay.
We discussed possibly the 2A, but in the meantime, I've moved to outside of Bloomington. I own 3.5, almost 4 acres. My wife has got her concealed carry permit through the state. I'm wondering, is it okay? Because I don't touch or get her anywhere close to her guns. She's got a SIG compact and a shotgun. Is she able to target shoot if I build a range on our property? Or is her brother-in-law, my brother-in-law, is he allowed to come down and take target practice on the property with me being a felon?
Yeah, it's a great question, Steve, and I'm glad you called. And thanks again for your patience and being on hold for a long time. But, yeah, no, I mean, she faces no peril. She's not in jeopardy of being in trouble for anything. by having firearms on the property, or for, and again, it's cool you have that acreage, and if you can construct a safe place to shoot with an appropriate backstop and whatnot, I'm sure you're way ahead of me on that. But yeah, she can absolutely do that and do that legally. Let's say there's a noise complaint and the cops show up, or, you just have a neighbor that hates guns or whatever. I don't assume that's the case for a minute, but just hypothetically. The real only issue, really, Steve, is for you, which is to make sure, and you said you'd never touch the gun. That's part of your question. But that's not all you have to worry about, because there's something called constructive possession. In fact, Dave, who's been on hold forever, wants to talk about stabilizing braces, also has a question about constructive possession. But constructive possession is where you don't have actual possession of something that's illegal. It could be drugs, in this case, of a firearm, where you can't yet possess firearms. Now, when you hit that 8-year anniversary on that felony OWI, man, give me a call. We'll get that sucker expunged for you, and we'll restore your gun rights. But in the meantime, you can't possess firearm, as you know. But there's also something called constructive possession, and that is where you don't have actual possession. So it's not in your hand, it's not in your pocket, it's not in a backpack that you're carrying, but you have access to it. And the state can prove that you had the intent and the capacity to exercise what they call dominion and control. In other words, dominion and control really mean the same thing. But if you've got to talk legal stuff, you got to include as many words as possible. But you have both the intent and the capacity to take control of that firearm. So, for instance, let's say your wife comes in from shooting out on your property. She sets a gun down on the nightstand, and she goes to the grocery store. And that's when the cops show up. There's another part of constructive possession, which is if you have exclusive control over the premises where the firearm is located, then your intent and capacity to exercise control over that firearm are assumed. They can be inferred in the language of those cases. So cops show up, there's a gun on the nightstand, you say, oh no, that's not my gun, I've never touched that gun. Your wife's not there, there's a gun in the house, you're the only one there, they can say you possess that firearm. So what I tell people, and I don't know that it's completely foolproof, but it's pretty damn safe. I tell people, hey, if one person in the household cannot possess a firearm, the other one can, get a safe that's programmed only for fingerprints. And a lot of them have backup keys, so you want to make sure you don't have access to the key. But let's say that safe is programmed only for her fingerprints, not yours. You could show a cop all day long, look, here's all 10 of my fingers, none of them work. Here's my toes, man, those don't work either. I can't get into this damn safe. And then your wife walks up, yep, look, here's my finger, pops right open. That's going to be pretty safe because it's locked up. You don't have either the ability or the intent to control that firearm. So, but that's what you got to worry about. It's not her getting in trouble. It's you potentially getting in trouble, especially on some kind of an argument that, yes, you didn't have actual possession, but you had constructive possession of a firearm on the premises. And, 4 acres is nice. It's huge. I wish I had 4 acres, but it's not so big that you couldn't potentially get a noise complaint or, some neighbor just wanting to whine about hearing gunshots. Then all of a sudden the cops come out. Now you got a bigger issue. And I've seen exactly that happen. I've defended that case. So it's a real concern. But I'm looking forward. You say it's almost been 8 years. Hey, man, you hit that 8-year anniversary, as I said. We'll get that taken care of for you so you don't have to worry about that anymore, and I'd be happy to help. Dave, finally, man, you've been on hold forever, and I really appreciate your patience.
Hello, Guy. Thank you for taking my call.
Absolutely.
My question is, with the short-barreled rifles come up with the stabilizing braces,
yep.
I have decided that it is not within my interest that I want to file a Form 1. So
yep.
what I did was I got a regular buffer tube and replaced the stabilizing brace with that, but I'm concerned about constructive possession. Can I still keep that old stabilizing brace? Because it can be put on a rifle, as long as I have it separated.
Yeah. Well, here's what the ATF in their Q&A on this ridiculously stupid stabilizing brace rule that came out with in January. What it says is that you're legal if you take off the stabilizing brace, so you only have a standard buffer tube, and the buffer tube can't have any, it can't be lengthened in any way, it can't have any increased surface area to increase the ability to shoulder it. But if you just have a standard buffer tube, and then according to the ATF Q&A that came out at the same time as the new rule. It said if you take off the stabilizing brace, and they say, and permanently alter the stabilizing brace so it cannot be reattached, and that will save you from constructive possession. Listen, the ATF hasn't won, the government hasn't won a constructive possession case on just having the parts for an NFA item in, 25, 30 years. I mean, it's been forever. There was a kit, I think it involved the Smith Contender rifle, if I remember correctly.
Thompson Center.
Yeah, there you go. Thompson Center, exactly right. And there was a case went all the way up Supreme Court on that, and they said no, because you can put this together in a way that's completely legal with these same parts that come in the kit, and it was Thompson Contender, great catch, I appreciate that, then it's stupid to rely on constructive possession just because it's somehow possible to put it together in an illegal way. It's just as possible to put it together in a legal way. You don't send somebody to prison for 10 years over that. So, again, you want to be completely sure, permanently alter it or get rid of it. But in the meantime, the ATF is saying you might be looking at constructive possession if you don't do either of those, that is, get rid of it or permanently alter it. But they haven't won that case in a really long time. If it were me, I hate braces. I've always thought they were a dumb compromise. I get it, you save $200. I get you save your registration, and that's a big deal to a lot of people. I've got plenty of firearms the government knows about. I've got firearms the government doesn't know about, and that's just fine. That's the way I like it. So I respect anybody, no matter how you want to come down on that. But if it were me, I'd either get rid of it. Well, that's what I do. I'd take it off and get rid of it. If the rule gets set aside in the courts or otherwise, or we have Congress actually find its brain and rescind it if we ever get Republican control of the House, then, hey, they're not that expensive. You buy another one. But I also, if I just had it detached and in another part of the house, would I be sweating over that I'm going to jail for constructive possession? No, because it's a weak argument, particularly, as you said, Dave, if you've got other firearms, that same brace can go on. So you can say, no, I just kept it around because I might want to put it. Now, if it's a rifle that already has a stock on it, it kind of defies logic to say I'd want to take a stock off and put a brace on it. You're taking a real stock off and putting a fake brace on it. Kind of in my mind, again, I'm not a fan of braces, but it's an argument, and I wouldn't sweat over it too much one way or the other. But again, just to be completely safe, you want to permanently alter it once you take it off or get rid of it. We're a little past the bottom of the hour. We've got other people on hold, man. We're going to come right back and go to the phone lines. We have great questions. Again, I love it when we get questions that I think the answers are of broad interest to a lot of people. That, to me, is the most fun part and informative part of the Gun Guy Show. So I really love the callers, and we've had fabulous callers so far. Let's keep it up. We got more people on hold. I'll go back to the phone lines when we come back. This is Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
We would listen to the race on the radio.
My brother and I would always end up in the back of a station wagon. We'd get to listen to the race, looking out back.
Can't watch the race on TV, it would be blacked out.
The magic of May.
We would listen to the race on the radio.
The traditions.
The race could be heard throughout the entire house.
The guys on the IMS radio network are the absolute best.
The memories.
We would go camping sometimes and listen to the race on the radio.
For more than 70 years, your home of the Indianapolis 500. 93 WIBC.
Hi, this is Denny Smith, and it's race time in Indiana, and that means it's time to gear up and get your home ready for the upcoming race. With Zero Res and your pit crew, you can sit back, relax, and enjoy the festivities knowing that your home is clean and fresh. Race time in Indy with race parties are not so much about getting rid of clutter. We also have to deal with everything from allergens and irritants to dirt and grunge being tracked into the home. Right now at Zero Res, you get 3 rooms of carpet clean for $149 plus a free hallway. Now that's an offer that'll put you in the winner's circle. And just like those wonderful pit crews at the track, Zero Res will be in and out in no time, leaving your floors and rugs in first place. The reason for this winning process is the exclusive turbocharged ZR water, something the other teams just don't have. With Zero Res, things just stay cleaner longer with a checkered flag feeling that you'll absolutely notice. Mention WIBC to get 3 rooms of carpet clean for $149, plus you'll get a free hallway. Call 388-5141. Again, that's 388-5141, or schedule your appointment online at ZeroResIndy.com.
Hubler has it.
Hubler has all the top brands: Chevy, Buick, GMC, Ford, Acura, Honda, Mazda, Nissan, and more. And every new vehicle includes a 10-year, 200,000-mile warranty. Looking to sell your vehicle? We'll pay you top dollar, even if you don't buy ours. Take it from Brooke Hubler.
You can get a car anywhere, but you can only get a warranty like this at Hubler. 10 years, 200,000 miles.
Visit drivehubler.com.
Hubler has it all.
Warranty available on new vehicles except certain models, not transferable or available on leases. Copy of the warranty is available for review at the dealership.
This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell. Men, you fought hard for the role that you play in your children's lives. This Father's Day, Cordell & Cordell celebrates you the entire month of June. Join us every Friday for our live webinar series, Father's Fridays. There you will receive much useful information from our panel of speakers. To register, go to CordellCordell.com/Father's Day.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's Indianapolis area attorneys. 101 West Ohio Street, Suite 1250, Indianapolis, Indiana 46204.
This hour on 93 WIBC, powered by Pierce Jewelers, Carmel's Diamond Engagement Ring Store.
Fox News. World leaders at the G7 summit issue a joint statement calling out China.
It does get very critical of China's actions in specifically the South China Sea, as well as the actions they're taking with Taiwan, saying that changes to the status quo would not be tolerated. It also calls on China to end the programs meant to undermine security and safety in other countries, as well as end human rights abuses.
Fox's Edward Lawrence, and video surfacing of a group of strangers beating and robbing a woman in Brooklyn earlier this week.
The woman is surrounded by 6 suspects. They hit her to the ground after exchanging some words, and then they punch and stomp on her repeatedly. She falls into the street. This continues. She crawls back up onto the sidewalk, eventually trying to use that bike as protection, and then the group eventually walks away, but not before police say they took her cell phone, wallet.
Fox's Nate Foy. America is listening to Fox News.
Spring in Indy. And since 2001, Rhino Shield has been covering Indiana homes and businesses. Just ask Mike.
I was watching TV one night and saw the Rhino Shield ad, and I thought, well, if they can do a house, they can probably do a building.
And Rhino Shield's not paint, it's better.
So they came out and they gave me a price, showed me how the Rhino works, how it lasts, and how the guarantee works.
Business owners, you too can get the 25-year protection of Rhino Shield right now for 15% off the regular price.
They started on the building. They waited for us to leave, and they worked Saturday and Sunday so they wouldn't affect our business at all. This was the great part of it. I came back Sunday night, and you couldn't even tell they were here. There was no paint on the ground. They did a fantastic job.
Here's owner Shane Smith.
This offer is limited, so call me at 888-RHINO-41. That's 888-RHINO-41.
Don't paint.
Don't vinyl. Go Rhino.
Don't vinyl. Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Get ready for race weekend by getting your Al Unser Jr. Signature Series watch from PA Jewelers in Brownsburg. It's a beautiful all-black timepiece from Citizen Watch bearing Al Unser Jr.'s signature on the dial in an actual autograph box. It's exclusively available through PA Jewelers in Brownsburg. Call or go on in to purchase. Shipping is available as well. PA Jewelers in Brownsburg, 3754 South Green Street, 317-858-3030, or on Facebook at PA Jewelers.
Hey, it's JMV, and save with the Sundown Gardens Memorial Day sale now through Memorial Day with 20% off all container trees and shrubs, 30% off Dissectum Japanese maple trees, and finish up your flowers and mulch too. Ask them about the loyalty program and save 20% off all container trees and shrubs and 30% off Dissectum Japanese maples at Sundown Gardens Memorial Day sale going on right now. That's Sundown Gardens, 186th and Spring Mill Road in Westfield. SundownGardens.com. That's SundownGardens.com.
He's a Second Amendment attorney. He's an NRA certified firearms instructor. He's the gun guy. Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. By the way, I had a private message on Facebook asked me about our flag being missing for the first hour of our show. I'll tell you exactly what happened. 10 seconds before we're going on air, the flag became unattached at one end, and it was drooping down in a way that I don't think befits the glory of our beautiful American flag, and it needs to be right in my mind, and we need to at all times be compliant with the flag code in terms of how it's displayed. So I took it down and gently folded it and kept it in the state it needed to be in until we got to the end of the first hour, and producer Carl then, in his heroic fashion, ran over and got it back up the way we like it.
We had a flag malfunction.
Yeah, we had a flag malfunction. That's a really good point. Like the infamous wardrobe malfunction, and very similar actually, as far as what actually happened. But we got it fixed, and we like the flag, and that it's right where it needs to be. But in the meantime, let's go back to the phone lines, because we've had just some fabulous callers. And Joe has called in. Joe, welcome to the Gun Guy Show.
Hi, Guy. I had a question about what you were discussing earlier about the credit card code.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't really apply to me because I buy my guns cash and I don't really trust them anyway, but... Mm-hmm. If you go to Rural King, they sell a lot of guns.
Yeah,
how do they know you're buying a gun at Rural King as opposed to,
a dedicated gun store? Right, exactly.
So how does that work on their credit card coding?
Well, that's a really good question, Joe, and I'm not sure we know yet. And by the way, thanks for calling the Gun Guy Show, and thanks for your patience. I'm not sure we know yet. This is all pretty new. The way it was announced publicly is that there was going to be a code for gun stores, not what you're buying, just by virtue of the fact you made a purchase at a gun store. And you're completely right about Rural King, but there are a lot of other places like that, big boxes that also happen to sell guns, Cabela's and others. And Walmart used to sell a lot of guns, although they've kind of turned their back on American gun owners as far as I'm concerned. But so it works the same way. I think that will just show retail and not necessarily say gun store. However, do I trust the credit card companies? And if the credit card companies can identify what you purchased, do I think that they would be above singling out your purchase of a firearm at something like Rural King and somehow identifying that and keeping a record of that, sharing that with federal authorities? I don't trust them half as far as I can throw them. So I would not put it past any of them. But the way it was announced, Joe, is that there's simply going to be a code for dedicated gun stores, FFLs that have their primary business in selling firearms. Again, they sell a lot of other stuff. That's why I gave the example of buying a safe. Just because I spend X amount of dollars at a gun store doesn't mean I bought a gun. And even if I did, who the hell's business is this at? Why does that need to be reported? The whole thing is offensive. And they did, we can track suspicious purchases. Identify a potential mass shooter. All you know is Guy Relford spent $2,000. You don't know what the hell I bought with it. It's the dumbest thing ever. But so, Grandpa Relford used to say, Grandpa Relford had a lot of very wise old country sayings, but one of them is, just because you're paranoid don't mean they ain't out to get you. Producer Carl likes that one. And I could not believe in that particular country wisdom anymore when it comes to firearms and the federal government and big banks, many of whom have already openly displayed their hostility toward gun owners and the Second Amendment. Let's go back to the phone lines. We've got Greg. Greg, thanks for your patience too, man.
Yeah. Thanks for taking my call, guy.
Sure.
I'm interested in what it takes to become a firearm instructor, what kind of training you have to go through, and if there is more of a demand for firearm instructors in the past few years, thanks to all the people that have bought guns, the new gun owners.
Yeah, two great questions, Greg, and thanks again for calling, and again, thanks for your patience. But, interesting, I've been a quote-unquote certified firearms instructor for, 25, 30 years. I got certified through NRA. I became an NRA instructor. There's a class, I think it's 8 hours. And again, this could have all changed since I did it because it's been a damn long time. Plus, my memory is becoming faulty in my old age. But as I recall, I had to take an 8-hour class to just get my instructor certification. And then for any discipline I wanted to teach, like pistol or rifle or shotgun, there was a separate one for home firearm safety. There was another one for a more advanced course called personal protection in the home. There was another one for personal protection outside the home. Any of those additional courses I wanted to teach, I had to go get certified to teach those particular NRA courses. Now, to answer your question, what does it take? What's required to become a firearms instructor? There's nothing legally required. You could walk out today and say, hey, I'm Greg and a firearms instructor. Come take classes and pay me money. The state doesn't require any kind of licensure or other educational requirement. And you can say that's horrible. You can say it's fine. But that's the simple truth. People can get certified through NRA, become an NRA instructor. I got to tell you, and look, I'm as you probably hear me say, I'm a benefactor level life member of NRA. I've given them a lot of money over the years, and I've taught thousands, maybe at this point, tens of thousands of people in NRA classes. But I was not particularly impressed with the level of training I needed to go through to become an NRA instructor. That's why a lot of people who are very serious about firearms training kind of laugh or at least roll their eyes when you tell them you're an NRA instructor, because they know it doesn't take very much to become one. I mean, an 8-hour course to become a basic instructor and another 8-hour course to be a pistol instructor. And now I'm going to be a professional instructor. And that's why there are a lot of really lousy instructors out there, because they're really not very well trained. I think that initial certification is actually what got me interested in training. And that's why you hear me talk about the training courses I go to all the time, because every course I take, the more I realize the more it is I both need to learn myself as well as how I become a better instructor. But there are other certifications. USCCA has, I think, some really good certification programs for their USCCA instructors. That's the U.S. Concealed Carry Association, and there's others. But I really think that, like, for instance, if you go the NRA route, and again, no disrespect to the other NRA instructors out there, the ones I know and respect, I believe will completely agree with me, is it's not really very impressive. I mean, you hear it here during our rejoins. We play some music, and then you hear Guy Relford, he's a certified NRA instructor. And I guarantee you there are people listening to the show who are really serious about training who roll their eyes a little bit and go, oh, wow, that's impressive. That's 16 whole hours of training, Guy. And I agree with that. I agree with it completely. Yes, I'm a certified instructor. It didn't take much. And that's why, to me, that was just like opening a door. And it's what you do on the other side of that door that I think makes you a good instructor or not. A lot of people are really good at doing and can't teach. A lot of people can't shoot to save their lives, but for whatever reason, they're good teachers. Although I don't know a lot of those. But the point is, it doesn't take much to become an instructor, but I think to become a good instructor, it basically takes a lifetime of dedication and instruction. And that's what I've tried to accomplish myself, and it's the reason I go to classes all the time. I took a 5-day class at Gunsight late last fall before the end of the year, and I can't wait to go back, and I want to take several. I think I took 4 or 5 different training courses, multi-day training courses last year. That's a guy who's been an instructor for 30 years. So anyway, that's my thought on that. Let's take a break. There are, I think, just one. There is just one caller I haven't gotten to. We'll get to Shad when we come back and then wrap up this edition of the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC.
Kendall and Casey.
Donald Trump liable for sexually abusing and defaming her. They did clear his name of rape, however.
It, to me, does reinforce why he can't be the nominee. You're now running with this? You're already a candidate who has a serious issue with swing state suburban women, and now you're running with this.
Kendall and Casey. Weekdays 9 till noon on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. Our most popular class is our Essentials of Indiana Gun Law class. We got our next one coming up on Saturday, June 17th, 2023. It's going to be at a Parabellum Firearms and Indoor Range. I'm really excited to teach out there. It's going to be there in Avon at the Parabellum Range, 8217 Kingston Street. 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., 4.5 hours of the most important legal information you could possibly get here in Indiana as an Indiana gun owner. And I say that with all humility. Sign up right online at tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com. And from the end of the show for another hour after that, if you purchase that course, $50 for an individual, $95 for couples, I'll also include 2 free tickets to next weekend's Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show. I'll be glad to include those, and I'll get them right out to you. You just need to sign up for the course within the next hour after the close of the show today. So go to tactical-firearms.com, click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
You let him try violin because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Greetings from R&R Agency, your Indiana health insurance pros. We continue to save our new customers 30 to 40% when compared to their present individual or small group coverages. Many of our plans feature zero deductible and zero copays, coverage guaranteed to age 65, and the largest network in the nation with 2 A-rated companies. We've been in the same location with the same phone number for 27 years. We'll be here when you need us. My early mentor in the insurance business was fond of saying, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always have what you always had. If you're unhappy with your present coverage and price, stop doing what you've always done. Call us at 317-435-1718 or go to rragency.org. That's 317-435-1718 or rragency.org. Thought for the day, if our country's such an awful place, why do millions come here to be free? God bless America, or at least what she used to be.
AE Ammo is Greenwood's ammunition superstore. The largest variety in training, hunting, and self-defense ammo with the best prices locally guaranteed. Factory new 9mm FMJ ammo starting at $12 per 50-round box. Factory new 50-round boxes, $380 from $14.99 and $45 ACP from $18.99. And with the AE Ammo Customer Rewards Program, start earning points today towards money back to use on future purchases. Shop in-store or online at aeammo.com.
Before I was adopted, I felt alone.
I felt nervous that I wouldn't have a family.
I was getting older and older. I didn't think I was going to get adopted.
With help from the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption, Lexi, Connor, and Lashawna now have a forever family and the foundation for a bright future.
When I was adopted, it was like, wow, I get to settle, and this is permanent.
After I was adopted, I felt happy.
Adoption changed me for the better. I feel like I can be whoever I want to be.
Every child deserves a safe, loving, and permanent home. Help the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption find forever families for children who have been lingering in foster care the longest. Learn more at davethomasfoundation.org.
We expect our information in real time. U.S. Med carries continuous glucose monitors, which provide real-time readings of blood glucose levels. U.S. Med is an approved provider for Medicare and over 500 private insurers. So call 800-730-8405 today for a free insurance and Medicare benefits check. As easy as, that's 800-730-8405.
There's a lot of sexy content on the internet. And there's WIBC, full of faces meant for radio. Hammer and Nigel, Kendall and Casey. Okay, Casey could be on TV. Now streaming every day on YouTube. Go to youtube.com/WIBC. Second to none on the Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Ralford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back for the last segment here of The Gun Guy Show here this evening. And I'll tell you what, Shad has called in with what I think is a really important question and something that I'm spending a lot of time on these days. But Shad, first of all, thanks, man. Thanks for calling the Gun Guy Show.
Hey, no problem, Guy.
So what you got?
I got in some trouble a long time ago in my 20s. I had my record expunged in 2017, had it redone in 18 to add in that U.S. federal code that you're supposed to have. I've been deemed a proper person. Tried to purchase firearms, have been denied numerous times, even filed an appeal, and that appeal took 4 years to still be denied. What do I do?
Well, I'm working hard on this, buddy, and let me tell you, I feel your frustration because I have expungement clients that call me all the time where I will have done their expungement. And I do a lot of expungements. I enjoy doing them. And let me tell you, I know exactly. I teach other lawyers how to do expungements. And I teach them the language that needs to go in the order to make sure people's rights are restored. And your rights are restored by operation of statute. And that's very clear. And so your rights, I'm sure, have been restored. The only crimes where if you get an expungement, your rights aren't restored are crimes of domestic violence. And if it's not a crime of domestic violence, then your rights have been restored. The problem, buddy, is that the federal government can't get its head out of its posterior on this issue. And here's what happened. And I've only got about a minute, but I'll do the Reader's Digest version of this. And that is, Indiana's original expungement statute was deemed to be insufficient by the federal government to restore rights in 2014. 2015, and I was involved in this, we amended the statute to make it very clear rights are restored. After that, we had interaction with the Department of Justice and the FBI to make it very clear, and they agreed, you're right, an expungement under Indiana's expungement statute does restore gun rights. And we cruised along pretty well for a couple of years, starting about when you're talking about, a couple of years ago. The federal government, somehow, literally, a new guy came in with responsibility for reviewing state law and deciding things like, does the Indiana expungement statute restore gun rights? And decided it didn't, completely contrary to what the DOJ had already established, and sent out memos within NICS, the people who do the background check when you're trying to buy a gun. And we had to go through a process where we actually got the Indiana Attorney General to write an opinion to convince them it does. So I'm in ongoing discussions with them. We're going to get it fixed, so have a little patience. In the meantime, that's the end of this week's show. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope you come back next week. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show.
Live life to the fullest. You hear that all the time, but it's easier said than done when you're in pain, right? Tony Katz here, and QC Kinetics is in the business of giving people back their quality of life, and not just providing that relief, but doing it in the most non-invasive way possible, utilizing regenerative treatments from your body's own natural biologics. So where is your joint pain? Your knees, your hips, your shoulder, your back? QC Kinetics concentrates these impactful treatments right at the source of your pain, directly applying healing properties where you need them the most. No surgery, no downtime, and patients are raving about the results. So what does living life to the fullest look like for you? Finally be able to play golf, hike, walk your dog, enjoy time with your family. Whatever it is, don't wait one more day. Get started today with a call to QC Kinetics for your complimentary consultation. QC Kinetics is in Eagle Creek, in Greenwood, and now in Carmel. So call 317-559-PAIN. That's 317-559-PAIN. Eagle Creek, Greenwood, and Carmel, 317-559-PAIN.
Are your investments going nowhere? Here's a tip that always pays big dividends. Invest in yourself, your talent, your smarts, your skills. Maybe it's time to make that investment and start a career in IT or upskill to boost your current career. At My Computer Career, you can bank on us. We'll help you get the right skills and the right certifications to start or advance your IT career. IT keeps growing, so go with the growth at My Computer Career. The right training, the right timing, the right career. Invest in you at mycomputercareer.edu. Start now.
This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell. Men, you fought hard for the role that you play in your children's lives. This Father's Day, Cordell & Cordell celebrates you the entire month of June. Join us every Friday for our live webinar series, Father's Fridays. There you will receive much useful information from our panel of speakers. To register, go to CordellCordell.com/Father's Day.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's Indianapolis area attorneys. 101 West Ohio Street, Suite 1250, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46204.
This year, we considered hiring an ad agency to help with our marketing.
They pitched impressive visuals and a script that was inspiring.
And exotic animal mascots to help grab your attention.
In the end, we just decided to tell it to you straight. Shelter Insurance has award-winning customer service at affordable rates.
Plus, our local agents are there to help you understand what coverage you need.
To find an agent near you, visit shelterinsurance.com and switch today.
Do you need air conditioning service and are looking for a local dealer you can trust, like Marshall Mechanical in Franklin? Find that American Standard air dealer at IndyHomeComfort.com. Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
There are screening tests to catch cancer early. Visit cancer.org/getscreened.
Broadcasting from the Peterman Brothers Heating, Plumbing, and Electrical Studios, this is Indy's Mobile News, 93 WIBC. WIBC HD1 Indianapolis. The news starts now.
Biden in Japan. I'm Marie Corsetti, Fox News. In his second day of meetings with G7 leaders, one topic of discussion is the war in Ukraine and whether to provide the country with F-16 fighter jets.
The plan here is to train Ukrainian pilots somewhere in Europe, and then once they are up to speed, figure out who in the G7 is going to provide these aircraft for the war effort. As for the other big story of the day, when a reporter asked President Biden about the debt limit, the president said to shush up. He is expressing confidence that a debt deal will get done, but while he's been in Asia, he's been pretty hands-off.
Fox's Peter Ducey, and according to a recently unsealed court filing, the FBI has reportedly been conducting searches on American citizens by using its warrantless search power.
The FBI is only authorized to search the 702 database when there is reason to believe that it will produce evidence of foreign actor crimes. Usually the suspect is based abroad. But from 2020 to the end of 2021, this filing shows that the FBI used the warrantless search powers against U.S. citizens 278,000 times, with searches on Americans involved in the Capitol riot, the George Floyd protests in the summers of 2020, and even a batch of 19,000 donors to an unnamed congressional campaign. The FBI says that they have tightened restrictions since 2021, and Fox News learned that in the year ending 22, the number of Section 702 searches did drop by 94%.
Fox's Alexandria Hoff, and with Title 42 now gone, Texas is taking matters into its own hands to deal with the flow of migrants.
There was a larger group in Eagle Pass that stopped along the Rio Grande River. About 100 migrants were on the riverbank on the Mexican side, being told by Texas DPS officers not to cross, and they didn't. Texas has spent more than $2 billion on border security over the last 2 years.
Fox's Dan Springer. America is listening to Fox News.
Jason in the House, the Jason Chaffetz podcast. There is always someone doing something stupid somewhere. Dive deeper than the headlines and the party lines as I take on American life, politics, and entertainment. Join me, Jason Chaffetz, every Wednesday